ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaskar, my dear friends. In this video, I am going to talk about Samadhi and its nature as explained and described by Adi Sankaracharya in his great book Viveka Chudamani. Samadhi is the superconscious state in which mind and ego are almost eliminated and our Atma is completely free from all veils and avarnas. The sadhak undergoing this superconscious state experiences bliss and peace. So this video starts with verse number 354. Agyan Hriday Granthani says Vilastada Samadhina Vikalpen Yada Advaita Atam Darshanam. When the non-dual Atma is realized in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the heart's knots of ignorance are completely destroyed. As a result of a constant practice of quietening the mind, when one enters absolute quietude, nirvikalpa samadhi, one gains the experience of the non-dual universal reality. When the mind is completely quiet, one is shut up into new dimensions of experience. This is the experience of the infinitude. With this experience, the personality becomes free from all its encrustations. In Vedanta, the personality bondages are called the knots of the heart. They are 1. Spiritual ignorance, avidya, as a consequence of it. 2. Desires, kama, that create agitations of the intellect and consequently at the body level. 3. Activity, karma. Spiritual ignorance, intellectual desires, mental agitations, and physical activities form a basic sequence of cause and effect, each succeeding one being the effect caused by the previous one. The consciousness that I am the ever full bliss, the self not being there, we are persecuted by an annoying sense of imperfections in ourselves. The intellect plans to gain perfection and completeness through its desires. Because of desires, there are thoughts in the mind. The thoughts in the mind prompt us to act in the world, which is work. This triple bondage of spiritual ignorance, desires, and action, which limit the human personality, ends when the individual successfully trains himself to quieten his mind completely and gets ushered into the experience of the infinite consciousness, his own real nature. Then the knots of the heart are cut asunder. Stanza number 355. तवम हमिद मितियम कल्पना बुद्धि दोषात् प्रभवती परमात्म अन्य दवे निर्विशेषे परविलस्ति समाधावस्य सर्वो विकल्पो विलय अन्मुपुच्छते स्तुत तत्वा वर्ध्यता. You, I, this, that. These concepts are fancied in the Supreme Self, which is absolute and non dual due to inherent defects of the intellect. When the real nature of Brahma is realized in Samadhi, all these concepts are dissolved. The imperfections of the intellect are the vasanas due to which the mind imagines the perceived world of plurality where we constantly live with a sense of you, I, this, and that. Such a world of plurality manifests and yields to us our sorrows and agitations. This entire delusion takes place in the supreme non dual self. When the real nature of the self is experienced, all these disturbances are completely dissolved. So, through the state of complete mental equipoise, when the thoughts have ceased to flow and dance about, the infinite is experienced, wherein one understands the real nature of the self, and at such a time all disturbances created by the imaginations of our intellect due to its imperfections cease entirely. This indicates an object very near to us that indicates an object further away. The play of this and that creates the concept of time and space. It is in this field that all objects are imagined. When there are objects perceived, then I enters the field as the subject, the perceiver. The subject object play is mind in agitation. When the self, which is the substratum for both the subject and its field, is realized, all mental turbulence comes to a halt. When the mind is thus quietened, The perception of the pluralistic phenomenal world will also end. Verse number 356. शांतो दान्तः परमो परतः अक्षान्ति युक्त समाधिम कुर्वन्नि नित्यं कलयति यतिः सबस्य सर्व आत्म भावम तेना विद्या तिमिर जनित साधु दग्ध्वा विकल्पान् ब्रह्माकृता निवसति सुखम निष्क्रियो निर्विकल्पः. Serene, self-controlled, perfectly withdrawn from sense objects, steadfast in silently enduring, struggling to attain samadhi, the seeker always contemplates on his own self as the self in the universe, destroying by these means all imaginations which arise from the blindness of ignorance. He lives blissfully as Brahma, free from egocentric actions and oscillations of the mind. An aspirant, in order to be successful in his meditation, should have the following fundamental qualities. 1. Serenity, Shanti. His mind is trained not to run after sense objects with the false notion that there is happiness in them. 2. Control of the sense organs, dantaha, so that the sense objects may not enter his mind from the world outside and disturb him. 3. Total withdrawal from mental preoccupations, parma upartaha. This is to be practiced and perfected so that the mind by itself may not dash out to remember sense enjoyments of the past, nor weave a tapestry of sense indulgences in fancied imaginations. 4. Forbearance, akshantihi yuktaha. This trait in a seeker is essential so that the little pinpricks of life may not cause agitations in him. Such a seeker at his meditation seat struggles to lift himself to the vision of the one self everywhere, samadhi. When he realizes that the self in him is the self everywhere, the bondages born out of spiritual blindness are all burnt down. Thereafter, that Mahatma lives ever content and blissful. He lifts himself up to the state of Brahma and verily becomes Brahma. Stanza number 30, 357. Samahita ye parvilapya bahyam srotradi chetah swamhem चिदात्मनि त एव मुक्ता भवपाशबन्धैः नन्ये तु परोक्षो कथाधायिनः. They alone are free from the bondage of birth and death, who, having attained samadhi, merge the objective world, the sense organs, the mind, nay, the very ego in the Atma, the knowledge absolute and none else, who blabber their indirect knowledge. This is a very important verse which indicates all the essential adjustments a seeker must make in himself before he becomes fit for higher meditations. Those who ignore these values and disciplines suffer endless disturbances on the path and rarely achieve any enduring success. Only then can one end forever the sorrows of births and deaths when one has experienced the total merger of the experiencer and the world of objects experienced in the one self in samadhi. Till this experience of samadhi, one will function in the field of time and space with the BMI and continue to experience constant change. Only on awakening to the vivid state of pure infinite consciousness can we be released from our binding identification with the BMI and so be free from the swirl of time and its changes, till we thus subjectively gain a direct experience of the self. All scriptural declarations are but empty noises and noisy emptiness produced for the sake of the students. Whatever we discuss upon the scriptures, whatever discourses we hear or give, are at best indirect knowledge, a mere blabber, no matter how eloquent the talks may be. Stanza number 358. उपाधि भेद अस्तव्यमेव भिद्यते चौपाध्यायपो हि स्वमेव केवलः तस्मात् दूधिविल्याय विद्वान् वसेत् सदा कल्पना समाधि निष्ठया. Through the many conditionings, a man is apt to think of his own self as full of diversity, but by removing these, he gains his own immutable self. Hence, for the dissolution of his conditionings, the wise man must devote himself to the practice of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. If there is only one infinite eternal truth, why is diversity seen? Because of the conditionings and their differences. The self by itself is experienced as though differentiated into the pluralistic phenomenal world. Due to the BMI prism, the one ray of the light of Brahma gets dispersed to form the many, the world of objects, emotions, and thoughts of endless varieties. When the conditionings upadhis are removed, meaning when the identification with the upadhis ends, the pure consciousness Kevala is realized as only one, both within and without. Therefore, the wise student of philosophy, in order to end his false identifications with the conditionings, in order to withdraw from the upadhis, must constantly practice nirvikalpa samadhi. He must try to bring the mind completely and absolutely to silence. Once or twice a day, we should struggle hard to bring the mind into perfect quietude. The rest of the time, even while experiencing the various phenomena of the outer world, he should cultivate the habit of turning his mind into inner quietude. This is practice of samadhi, samadhi nishtha. Nirvikalpa Samadhi indicates the state where one has negated all disturbances or agitations in the mind. Continuously live this. This is the only method. Stanza number 359. Sati Sakto Naro Yati Sadbhavam Haye Kanishthaya Kitko Bharmaram Dhyayan Bharmaram Toy Kalpate. One who is attached to the real becomes the real through single pointed devotion, just as the worm contemplating intently upon the wasp Bharmara is transformed to become a wasp. The man who is extremely attached to the infinite reality reaches it by constantly devoting his mind to it. This is achieved by his single pointed meditation upon the self Eka Nishtha. To illustrate the above idea, a famous example is given here. A pupa meditating upon a wasp Bharmara becomes a wasp. The wasp makes its nest generally in the crevices of the ceiling or at the corners of tables which are not disturbed. The queen wasp brings a worm-like pupa and keeps it inside the mud nest, the mouth of which it closes but for a tiny little opening. The wasp sits outside the cage looking into the hole. The pupa can see nothing at all save this tiny opening guarded jealously by this terrible monster. The poor pupa continuously looks and meditates upon the wasp. Whenever the pupa's attention is diverted and it tries to get away, the wasp stings it. If ever you have been stung by a wasp, you will understand what it is like. The entire 250 pounds of you will be rolling in pain. If the poison of one sting disturbs the peace and tranquility of a man 6 feet tall with chest 38 inches, you can understand the agony of the little pupa. Thus, tormented by the pain, it continuously meditates upon the terrible wasp. Its meditation is single pointed. Due to this pain driven meditation, the pupa either dies inside the cage if it is a weakling or comes out transformed as a wasp. When the pupa metamorphoses to become a wasp, it develops the capacity to break the very mouth of the nest and emerge out all by itself. As it comes out, it kills the mother wasp because all along it had developed an inconsolable anger towards the stinging mother wasp. The worm which the wasp brings is really a potential wasp in its pupa stage. Geological observations prove that after the egg of the wasp develops into a larva and molts into a pupa, the mother wasp brings it to the prepared nest for protection, and under its watchfulness, the pupa slowly grows to become a full-fledged wasp. In their poetic vision, Vedantic scholars take this as an example for the limited pupa-like insignificant PFT transforming itself into the unlimited, all-pervading, omniscient reality. This is achieved through single-pointed meditation. Those who are extremely attached to reality, Sat Saktaha, with single-pointed concentration, meditate upon Brahma and become Brahma. Here it must be clearly understood that it is not a becoming in the sense of any marked obvious transformation, but the self of the individual expands to become the self pervading the entire universe. Just as every pupa is potential vast, so too every man is potentially divine. But a great deal of discipline and sadhana has to be put in before the efforts bear the fruits of spiritual maturity. Every pupa does not become a wasp, yet it is capable of, it has the capacity for becoming a wasp. The pupa metamorphoses into a wasp by virtue of its being a potential wasp and by its long period of wait during its meditation. It is constantly growing towards becoming a wasp. The human pupa molds into a divine personality by virtue of its being essentially divine and by its constant single pointed meditation upon the divine. It grows in spiritual dimensions to become the divine. At the pupa stage, the shapeless larva does not promise us a wasp, yet it is a wasp. Similarly, the limited mortal pan-ridden individuality of man does not look at all its real divine nature. But when the PFT Jiva ends its identifications with the BMI and OET through steady meditations upon the self, the PFT, the limited individuality, metamorphoses into infinite Satchitananda. When the pupa stops being a pupa, it becomes a wasp. When a man stops being a jiva, he becomes the supreme. Stanza number 360. क्रिया अंतरा शक्ति पाशय कीट को ध्याय अन्यथालिम हवली भाव मृगछति तथैव योगी परमात्म तत्वम ध्यात्वा समायाति तदेकनिष्ठाया. Just as the insect, renouncing attachment to all other activities, thinks intently upon the wasp and metamorphoses into one, so too a yogi meditating upon the nature of Paramatman attains it through his single pointed devotion to it. The idea of the previous verse is continued here and the example is applied to the yogin's life. Having left all anxiety for all other kinds of activity, the insignificant pupa constantly maintains the one thought of the wasp in its mind, not crawling, not moving about, it is not even conscious of its own breathing, but with its attention held continuously upon the wasp, it becomes a wasp after a perfect metamorphosis. Similarly, when the PFT withdraws its attention from the world of OET and turns the M and I towards reality, it is transformed into the infinite, withdrawing one's expression through the sense organs. When one continuously meditates upon the nature of the infinite as indicated in the Upanishads, one reaches the ultimate state of evolution. At present, the PFT in us is meditating upon the OET through the BMI. This identification with the BMI has to be withdrawn and our attention is to be redirected towards the Atma in order to realize the self. The example given here is very appropriate. In the pupa stage, the wasp behaves exactly like an ordinary worm. It looks like a worm. It crawls like a worm. This is one of the stages of its evolution, but ultimately it has to grow into a wasp. This insignificant pupa has all the qualities of a wasp lying dormant in it. The wasp stage is the culmination of its fulfillment, which it becomes given the time to grow in its meditations. Similarly, the jiva is potentially divine, but at this moment this divinity is not manifest by constant single-pointed concentration upon the divine self. However, it can glide into the infinitude, which is the state of ultimate human evolution. It is then that the ego dissolved into the vision divine. Stanza number 361. अति सूक्ष्मं परमात्म तत्वं ने स्थूल दृष्टया प्रतिपत्तो महर्ति समाधि नित्यत्व सुक्तव्यतया ज्ञातव्यमय अति शुद्ध बुद्धि भी. The real nature of Paramatma is extremely subtle and cannot be reached by the gross outgoing tendency of the mind. It is accessible to noble ones with extremely pure intellects through samadhi brought about by an extraordinary subtlety of the mind. Reality cannot be recognized by the gross process of perception. The gross objects of the world can be seen and recognized if you have a pair of healthy eyes. If you go to the pond, you may see a lotus, but the lotus reveals its subtle beauty only to a poet. He sees a beauty, a special charm, and an unearthly attractiveness in it. Unless you too can feel like a poet, you will not be able to appreciate this subtler vision of the lotus in the pond. A philosopher will divine a subtler meaning in the picture. The deep message of the lotus growing in the pond is understood by him. To understand that message, one needs a subtler intellect. We are told that the Einsteinian theory is today fully understood by only half a dozen people in the whole world. Only a highly developed and specialized intellect can grasp the subtle import of the theory. The Atma is subtler than the subtlest thought possibility of the intellect because it transcends the intellect itself. Hence, with the gross instruments of knowledge, one cannot apprehend it. Then, what is the instrument in whose focal length the subtle truth is brought for our recognition and experience? When the thoughts have become subtle in the hushed moments of deep meditation, the mind is turned up for the higher transcendental experience divine. It can be known only by the best among us men, Arya, who have perfectly purified intellects. Those who have lifted the veilings and reduced the agitations in the mind are said to have purified intellects. This is the stage when the vasanas have been reduced, when the desires for sense objects no more agitates the intellect. The intellect which has stopped wandering into the fields of sense gratification, which is not involved in the mass of sense objects around and which is steady in its contemplation. Such an intellect is capable of understanding this great Brahma. There is only one method, therefore, to realize the truth. Sub- Subtilize the vision by eliminating desire, created agitations, and the non apprehension of reality created by the Vasana veils. Stanza number 362. Yatha suvaran putpak shodhitam त्यक्त्वा मलं स्वातं गुणं स्मृच्छति तथा मनः सत्वर सतमोमलं ध्यानेन संत्यज्य समेति तत्वम्. Just as gold by thorough heating in fire gives up its impurities and gains its own luster, so too the mind through the meditation sheds its impurities of sattva, rajas and tamas and attains the nature of Brahma. The purification of the mind through meditation is explained by the example of gold purification. In the smelting of gold, the ore from the mines is powdered and salved. The gold thus collected contains many baser metal impurities. The mixture is then heated and smelted in the molten mixture. The different metals from different layers form different layers. All the gold comes together, the dross is removed, and the pure gold gains its own essential quality of yellow luster. Thus, by smelting, gold is purified. The same process is applicable to mental purification also. Our minds are now impure because of the dross of sattva, rajas, and tamas. When such a mind is kept under the heat of meditation, the dross in the mind drops off and pure sattvic mind emerges. Sattva cannot remain in its pure nature, so it sublimates to merge with the infinite. When sattva, rajas, and tamas are removed from the mind, it dissolves into the vision of reality. The great infinite homogeneous consciousness is experienced as one without a second, both within and without. Stanza number 363. Nirantar अभ्यासवास्यतं पक्वं मनो ब्रह्मणि लीयते यदा तदा समाधि स विकल्पवर्जितः सबतो आनंद रसा अनुभावकः. Thus purified by constant practice, when the mind merges with Brahma, then samadhi passes from the Savikalpa to Nirvikalpa stage, leading directly to the experience of the bliss of Brahma, the non-dual. The mind matures in its purification by the constant practice of the removal of the direct dirt of sattva, rajas, and tamas from it. Such a mind, when it dissolves into Brahma, meaning when it is not separate from it, it attains the state of nirvikalpa samadhi. When a mature mind is exposed to meditation for a long period of time, it becomes fit for total dissolution in Brahma. When the meditation becomes deeper, the mind leaves its negative tendencies and all its confusions and doubts are eliminated. When the intellect becomes quiet without even a single disturbance, it by itself, with no special effort, reaches the state of nirvikalpa samadhi. When the mind has ended, there is nothing else to do. The quietened mind enters the state of samadhi. The mind is quietened When rajas and tamas are removed by meditation, in the heat of meditation, all agitations are removed. Then there is the experience of the non dual Brahma. The experience is non dual because of the absence of anything other than it at all times and at all places. Bliss, Ananda, because of the absence of the mind, there is no sorrow whatsoever. It is the joy in the joyous Ananda Rasa, the essence of joy. There is no other way of describing the objectless awareness by its mindless bliss infinite. Therefore, meditate, meditate, and meditate. Stanza number 364. Samadhi na anen समस्त वासना ग्रंथे विनाशो खिल कर्मनाश अंतर बहि सर्वतः एवं सर्वदा स्वरूपे विस्फूर्ति यतन्तः स्यात्. By this samadhi, all desires which are like knots are destroyed. All work comes to an end, and within and without, everywhere and always takes place a spontaneous manifestation of one's own real nature. Samadhi cannot be achieved by digging a hole in the earth and going underground. Whenever and wherever you are trying to quieten your mind, you are in the practice of samadhi. Detaching the mind from disturbances within and without and directing it to rest in Brahma is samadhi. When samadhi is practiced, all bondages created by the vasanas are destroyed. Vasanas create desires in the mind, desires create agitations, agitations create ego prompted selfish activities, and thus you are bound to the objects of the world. So then, when you act in the world without ego and ego centric desires, naturally the mind becomes quiet. When you try to quieten the mind more and more, the vasanas must get exhausted. Vasanas are exhausted and bondages loosened in our constant and deliberate attempts at keeping the mind in peaceful silence. The unmanifested vasanas are destroyed in the practice of samadhi. The entire sanchit karma which has been accumulated in millions of our past lives, akhila karma, both manifest and unmanifest, is destroyed when we experience samadhi. The vasanas that have come to fruition, meaning the already manifested vasanas, can be destroyed by selfless, dedicated activity. The accumulated vasanas, sanchit, which have not yet come to fruition, meaning the unmanifested vasanas, are burned down in the fire of right knowledge. The bondage of activities and that of enjoying the fruits of actions does not belong to that individual who has directly reached the state of samadhi. On experiencing samadhi, the PFT, who is the doer of activities, karta, and the enjoyer of the fruits of actions, bhokta, ends. When the criminal is dead, whom can the law arrest? The file is closed. One who performed the action alone can enjoy the fruit of the action. When the ego has ended, who is to suffer? Hence the entire past karmas, and when the ego ends on realization of the infinite, when all the vasanas and their consequent bondages are annihilated through the practice of constant meditation, the seeker seeking himself ends in the total exhaustion of his entire karma. At this stage, what is the experience? Is it an empty zero when the PFT, the causal body, and the vasanas have ended? What can remain? The teacher says at that time you will have a clear subjective experience of your own self. That experience requires no special effort. Nothing need be done for it, either to reach it or to preserve it in us. When the waking and dream states have been transcended, no special effort is necessary to reach and preserve the state of sleep. There is no question then of reaching sleep. We are then already in deep sleep. In fact, if we start any effort, we are sure to wake up from sleep. The state of this absolute quietude within when the individual meditation is transformed into realms of inexpressible bliss is the final subjective experience. It is complete realization of the self by the self in the self without any effort. Yatantaha, we shall realize our own self. Stanza number 365. Srute Satgunam Vidya Mananam Mananadapi Nidhi Dhyasam Laksan Gun Manantam Nirvikalpam. Reflection should be considered 100 times superior to listening, and meditation 100,000 times superior to reflection, but Nirvikalpa Samadhi is infinitely more sacred. Knowledge can be obtained by listening to a teacher. Reading books is also a method of listening to acquire knowledge. But when one sits down and reflects upon the ideas gathered from a teacher or a book and makes them one's own, that understanding is 100 times more powerful than what can be gained by merely listening to a teacher or reading books. If the seeker starts meditating upon the knowledge thus acquired through reflection, the sharpness of his understanding becomes 100,000 times more effective. That is, when one starts hushing up one's mind, the clarity of knowledge that one gains becomes 100,000 times greater than what one had gathered through reflection. As you start practicing meditation, after some time, a stage comes when you are in a dynamic state of thoughtless stillness in the nirvikalpa condition, and your knowledge becomes infinite. This is a result of your continuous meditation. When you dissolve your ego into complete silence into the plane of pure infinite consciousness divine. Stanza number 366. Nirvikalp samadhina saputam brahm tattvam gamyate dharvam nanyatha chaltaya manogate पर्यंत अंतर मिश्रितम भवेत. By Nirvikalpa Samadhi, the true nature of Brahma is clearly and definitely manifest, never otherwise, for then the mind, being unsteady, is apt to be mixed with other perceptions. In the condition of Nirvikalpa Samadhi alone can this great reality be apprehended with certainty. With cent% certainty, you apprehend the truth when all the waves and ripples in your mind have ended. Sankara is positive and declares never by any other method. Bringing the mind to quietude is the only method. To quieten the mind, there are many methods. You may quieten your mind through devotion or through knowledge or through karma yoga or through pranayama. whether standing on the head or sitting down, whether by going to the Himalayas or by living in your own home. You have the freedom to choose these, but your mind you must quieten. The mind's nature is to be constantly active. Thought flow, it is called. Therefore, it is impossible to realize the changeless self with the mind, which by its very nature is unstable. Whenever you try to grasp anything through the mind and intellect, the object of knowledge gets entangled in your own thought patterns. Pure self can never be understood. So all that you understand about the Atman through the mind and intellect is Saguna Brahma and not Nirguna Brahma. The unconditioned absolute is never understood. You just become it when the mind ends. As long as you look at it through the mind, it is only the conditioned, the limited Saguna version of the eternal absolute self. स्टैंजा नंबर 367 अतः समाधस्व यतेन्द्रियः सन् निरन्तरं शान्तमना प्रतीचि विध्वंसे ध्वान्तमना मनाद्य विद्यया कृतं सदेकत्वा विलोकनेन. Therefore, with a serene mind and the senses controlled ever down the mind in the subjective supreme self, and by realizing your identity with the reality, destroy the darkness created by the beginningless nescience avidya. When the mind is controlled, the sense organs are automatically controlled. Then the mind becomes tranquil. The mind is subjected to two types of disturbances, subjective and objective. At this moment, our mind is subjected to both these disturbances and hence it is in a state of flux. Objective disturbances are brought into the mind by the sense organs. When the sense organs are controlled, objective disturbances will not reach us. Subjective disturbances are created by the vasanas in the intellect. When the intellect is re-educated to think in the right direction, then the subjective disturbances also will not agitate the mind. When both these types of disturbances are not affecting the mind, it is quiet. With this quiet mind, retreat into the chambers of sheer quietude and remain there, alert to experience therein the dynamic silence. The divinity is recognized there at the time within oneself. When the reality is thus apprehended, the darkness of ignorance created by nescience, avidya, gets totally annihilated. Destroy the non-apprehension by directly apprehending the reality. The non-apprehension of the post can be destroyed only by the apprehension of the post. Then the ghost apparition disappears completely forever. Therefore, start controlling the mind and the sense organs. Stanza number 368. योगस्य प्रथम द्वारम वागम निरोधो परिग्रह निराशा च निरीहा च नित्यकांतशीलः. The first gateway of yoga consists of number 1 control of speech, number 2 non-acceptance of possessions, number 3 non-entertainment of expectations, 4 freedom from activity, and 5 living always in a retired mood. In the previous verse, control of sense organs and mind have been advised. Some more hints are given here as steps to control the wild sense organs and the restless mind. To enter into the palace of yoga, the very first gateway is control of speech. Speech does not only mean speaking, It includes the functions of all the organs of actions. All these are represented by the term speech, vak, non-acceptance of possessions, a prigraha, the idea that one will be happier by possessing the objects of the outer world has to be entirely eradicated. There is no harm if things and beings are around us, but mentally we should not hug them with a sense of ownership. Eliminate all sense of possessiveness without any expectations. Nirasha, thoughts of the enjoyments of the fruits of our actions in a future period of time have to be given up. Giving up of all egocentric activity is niriha. When the above qualities of no excitement arising from expectations of future enjoyment and no ego prompted selfish activity cultivate the habit of being alone constantly, nitya akanta silata. Aloneness is different from loneliness. By remaining lonely at a place where there is nobody else, realization is not guaranteed. Even in the midst of a crowd, you can be alone. All alone is Brahma, the one without a second. Aloneness is not in the surroundings, but it is in one's attitude within the bosom to remain with one and or a goal eka antam, to remain with all attention fixed upon that one goal. The habit of constantly remaining alone even in a busy marketplace is to be cultivated. Therefore, in order to reach samadhi, learn to sit down at least 10 minutes every day without any activity, physical and mental. Let us sit down without any expectations of possible enjoyments with the firm understanding that the objects around us can never give us happiness. Constantly keep up the habit of remaining alone, remembering Him with nothing else in the mind. The mind is alone. The alone mind alone can move to truth which is always alone. Stanza number 369. एकांत स्थिति इंद्रिया परमणे हेतु दर्शनम चैतस्य संरोधे कर्णम समेन विलियम या दह वासना तेना आनंद सानुभूतिरच्चला ब्राह्मी सदा योगिनः तस्माच्चि निरोध है एवं सततम कार्यम प्रयत्न उन्मुने living in solitude helps to control the sense organs. Control of the senses serves to control the mind, and by controlling the mind, the ego is destroyed. This gives the yogin an absolute realization of the bliss of Brahma. Hence, the man of reflection should always strive to quieten his mind alone. Control of the mind leads to self realization by stages. It will not happen all of a sudden as though by some strange and inexplicable magic. The progress is stage by stage, each one leading to a higher one until at least he reaches in time the final stage of self realization. These various stages are explained in this verse. When you practice keeping your mind in continuous contemplation upon the reality, ekanta sthiti, the sense organs will slowly retire indriyo paramatmanam from their preoccupations with the sense objects. They will stop running after them because the mind is now constantly dedicated to the contemplation of a much more satisfying joyous state. Control of the sense organs and control of the mind are mutual. Control of the one leads to control of the other. Thus is the mind chetas controlled. An uncontrolled mind is always in a state of agitation caused by the sense organs and the ego, ahankara. When the sense organs are not bringing in any stimuli from the sense objects because of the mind's preoccupation with its continuous contemplation upon the reality, the ego is well controlled because of its dedication to the higher ideal, and the mind naturally becomes quiet. In a quiet mind, vasanas get destroyed. Control of the mind means reduction of desires. When the desires have been reduced, vasanas get annihilated. Thus, when the ego is surrounded at the altar of the self, then realization of the bliss of Brahma is at hand. When the ego is annihilated, the experience of the infinite must necessarily come. That stage of Brahmic consciousness is the real essence of the unbroken bliss absolute. Therefore, the man of reflection who has already listened to a master and reflected independently upon the ideas must control his thought flow, his mind. Stanza number 370. Vacham niyachat atmani tam niyach buddhau dhiyam yach cha buddhi sakshini tam chapi purna atmani nirvikalpe vilape shanti parama bhajasva. Restrain speech in the mind and restrain the mind in the intellect, and this again restrain in the witness of the intellect, and merging that two in the infinite absolute self gain supreme peace. We know how to unfold ourselves. We are doing it all along. Thoughts erupt because of desire. Thoughts arrogantly express through the physical body in the world outside, and we try to acquire and aggrandize in all our activities. After getting the objects of our desire, we indulge in them and fulfill our immediate desires. The moment the present desire is fulfilled, another desire luxuriously sprouts up, and again the entire tragedy is enacted down to the exhausting convulsions of actions. Thus, though we stand for satisfaction, we unintelligently run after sense gratification only. This method of unfolding and projecting ourselves, distorting ourselves into mere caricatures of the equanimous center, is very well known to us. From such conditions of extravertedness, how are we to pull ourselves back to the center in us, the peaceful self? The stages on this inward pilgrimage are described by Acharya Shankara as thoroughly as roadmap. Fold back the speech into the mind, fold that mind into the intellect, fold that intellect into the witness of the intellect. After gaining perfectly the attitude of a witness to one's own thought processes, this witnessing faculty also should be folded into the tranquil Atma, the Self Supreme. So instruct the Kathopanishad mantra. Speech here stands for all external activity. Let all the activities be held back at the mental level, meaning though thoughts still be gurgling in the mind, the seeker must refuse to act. This mental activity should be held in abeyance at the intellect level, meaning keep the thoughts at desire level only, not allowing them any expression outside. Thus, when the intellect has changed its values, the mind, which is entertaining the thoughts of extravertedness, must necessarily become quiet. If the intellect is still having irrespre- irrepressible built-in pressures of the desires of extravertedness merge that restless intellect in the uninterested observer of the intellect. Make yourself only a witness to the various agitations of the intellect. When we thus refuse to identify with the thoughts or the desire, no desire prompted travel of activity can ever take place. The desires must naturally die away because we are no more lending our dynamism to it. By continuously remaining as the witness, we are withdrawing all our dynamism from the waves of our desires, and so they become important. The instruction of the Acharya here is to be witness of the intellect, buddhi, sakshi. This means remaining as a witness to what is going on in one's own intellect. The witnesshood can be maintained only as long as things are happening. When we are detached from what is happening and when we cease to lend our vitality to the intellect, thoughts must get thoughts must get slowly reduced. When the intellect is thus merged in the witness, it gets quietly hushed up until at last, when the last thought is also ended, the witness can no longer be a witness. A witness is one who is witnessing something. When the last thought is also ended, there is no object for the witness to watch, and therefore the witnesshood of the witness ends. Thus, the witness entity, the ego, merges with the pure infinite consciousness. This pure infinite consciousness, while witnessing the intellect, meaning in its identification with the intellect and its thoughts, had become the witness, the ego. This witness, identifying with its desires, become the desirer, the ego. The desirer thereafter thinks upon his desires and comes to play as the thinker, the ego. The active thinker becomes the doer. The doer is the final objective expression of the pure infinite consciousness as the ego. Therefore, retrace the path of fall is the true spiritual status of man. Thus, fold back the ego into the state of the peaceful self, Sant Atma. Stanza number 371. देह प्राण इंद्रिय मनोबुद्ध आदि भीरूपाधिमी यर्व्यर्ते समायोगस्ते द्वा वो वश्य योगिन है. The body, pranas, sense organs, mind, intellect, etc. With whichever of these conditionings the mind gets disassociated, the yogins also gets transformed as it were into that. According to his identification with the functions of his various equipments, the yogins get temporarily transformed when we identify with any pain in our body. We become the sufferers of that pain. When we are detached from that pain, as in deep sleep, we do not suffer any longer. Through our identification, we come to experience exactly the condition of the equipment. The word yogi here is used in a peculiar sense. Ordinarily, yogi means one who is identifying with the higher. Here, Sankara uses it in its etymological meaning. Yoga means to join, to get yoged with. Yogi means one who is yoged. When we yoke ourselves to our physical passions or emotional agitations or intellectual perturbances, we at least temporarily become that only. When we identify with the anger in our minds, we come to behave in rapport with that anger. When we identify with the lust in us, we become for the time being the manifestation of lust. Generally, yoga with the world of objects is called bhoga. Shankara here, however, deliberately uses the word yoga so that it becomes easier for us to understand the following verse. Stanza number 372. Tanni vyarta mune samyak sarvoparmanam sukham sadrishyate sada anand sanu bhava vipalva. When this completely removed, a man of reflection is found to detach easily from everything and to get into the riotous revelry of the essence of bliss. When the man of reflection with correct understanding gets divorced from his meaningless embrace with the flesh, he naturally come to experience the joy of total withdrawal. Sarvo Paramatmanam Sukham, from all pains and sorrows. Ordinarily in the world we are joyous when we acquire something. Here you gain the supreme joy of total withdrawal from every disturbance by giving up your hold on objects. It is the joy of our real nature when we come to experience the riotous revelry of the infinite bliss. So I conclude this video at this stage. Next video will start with fully detached samadhi easy. Thank you for watching this video. Namaskar my dear friends. Thank you.